Hey guys, welcome to Living in South Florida Does Not Suck. This is Andrew Burr from the Andrew Burr Group at the Kai's Company. We can't wait to get started. All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Living in South Florida Does Not Suck. Today I have a guest, Troy Meindertsma.
Close enough.
I told you I was going to mess it up anyways. From Sunbelt Title, I am obviously Andrew Burr, leader of the Andrew Burr Group at Coldwell Banker. But let's start this out by asking Troy, who lives east of where I live here in Palm Beach County, right on the Intercoastal, why living in South Florida does not suck. What's your number one reason?
Well, we live in paradise, Andrew. I mean, there's as simple as that, you know. Depends on pick your poison. If you like to fish, you like to surf, you like to dive, you like to snorkel, you like to golf, you like to ride horses. I mean, windsurf, kite surf. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So
I agree. 100%.
Not to mention, we also always have the beach. So
yeah, it's not terrible. Like I said, it's, it doesn't suck, right?
Correct.
So what I like to tell people a lot of times is that, South Florida, and look, there's Florida. Florida is not all South Florida. Realistically, you have what I call South Georgia. Then you have kind of Central Florida. Then you have South Florida. South Florida is pretty much below the subtropical line, and it's a different world. But down here in South Florida, particularly on the East Coast, Palm Beach County, Tri-County area, you can go out and go deep sea fishing in the morning. You can come check out a polo match in the afternoon, and then go enjoy world-class dining in the evening every single day. So it has a little bit of everything that you might want to offer. All right, so getting into sort of the nuts and bolts of the reason that we do this podcast, I'm a realtor. He's a title guy. So let me ask you this question, Troy.
sure.
If I'm selling my house, why do I care about title? What does title do for me?
Well, Florida, in turn, right now, is one of those finicky states. In Palm Beach County specifically, if you're selling your house, the seller controls title. So they pick and choose the title company. The number one question I get with regards to title is, why Sunbelt? Well, first and foremost, you get experience. You get myself. We have a team of professionals. We have 45 offices statewide, so we have almost a location anywhere and everywhere where you want to be, because as you know, realtors don't just concentrate on one city, one county. They do real estate all over the place, and it's nice to have an office wherever you're going to be doing your business.
So what is the actual function of title, though, for a seller? What are you providing them? What is the service that you're providing
So
them?
we actually facilitate the real estate closings. By that, I mean we do the title search, the lien search, the permit search. We clear the title, excuse me, and we make sure that the estoppel is taken care of. And the estoppel is basically a lien search for homeowners associations, because we have homeowners associations and condo associations all over the place. We prepare all the closing documents, and when it's time to close, facilitate the transactions with the finances, and make sure everybody's signed, sealed, and delivered.
Okay, and so title insurance specifically is, and then we'll move on to some other stuff, but title insurance specifically is one of the main things that you provide, right? And,
Correct.
And there's a couple different kinds, but the main, you have lender's title insurance and stuff like that, but
Sure.
the main title insurance that you provide, can you explain to everybody what that is? Because I have
Sure.
realtors that always are going, what is this? It says optional at the closing. I'm like, well,
the owner's title policy, Andrew, is a coverage that provides the new homeowner with a one-time fee that provides them anything that's happened prior to that person's ownership, any defects on title, that protects them moving forward for as long as they own the property. So It's a one-time fee. It's promulgated by the state of Florida, and it doesn't change whether it's Sunbelt Title or any other title company. The cost is the same for everybody. So, one thing about Sunbelt does is that a lot of other title companies don't do is we underwrite our own policies by board-certified Florida state attorneys.
Okay.
So a lot of other companies sub them out to third parties, such as, Old Republic, Fidelity, First American, things like that. We underwrite our own policies in-house. So if there's ever an issue, you can always come back to us directly, and you don't have to search for another third-party entity to get the answers that you might need about that title policy.
Yeah, that's great, because that does happen a lot. Well, not a lot. I do a lot of transactions, so to me, a lot is, for most of you, you won't ever have an issue. But when you do, if you do, you really want the title insurance, and you want to be able to have the ease of finding out the answers. But let's go back to a little bit about why South Florida doesn't suck, because that is my favorite topic. And Troy and I were talking earlier. I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate. I run a team up here in the Tri-County area, Palm Beach County. Well, it's really 4 counties, but Martin County is a little sliver. So it's really St. Lucie County, Palm Beach County, and Broward County. But I'm also very fortunate that I have a home down in the Keys and Key Largo, and I do work in the Upper Keys. And I literally have the best of both worlds in South Florida. The Keys lifestyle is a little more laid back, obviously, than it is here in Palm Beach County. Although, judging by the way that I dress, I'm not exactly a corporate dresser or anything like that. That's just not the way that I live. But it's a great thing to have, right? So my favorite thing about living in South Florida is actually combined with business. So I had the opportunity earlier this year, or actually now it's not this year anymore. It was mid last year, 2022, to sell a property on my boat. And what I mean by that is I pulled my boat up, picked customers up, drove, and this was in Key Largo, cruised through, showed them 3 different houses on 3 different canals, but we did it all via my little boat. And they bought a house from me, and I thought, I don't know if it gets any better than that. I think it's awesome, right?
Especially if you're selling waterfront property. You want to know what the water view is going to look like.
Especially if you're selling water. And that's it. And, honestly, down there, a lot of people, they motivate by boat. They don't get in a car a lot of times.
If you don't
hop in a boat, go to the local restaurant, hop in a boat, do some fishing, hop in a boat, do some floating. It's great.
Sure.
So those of you that don't know Troy, which is probably honestly all of you, he's an avid fisherman, and he was just telling me this morning. So when you get up in the morning before you come to work, apparently you go fishing a lot.
Well, I live about 30 seconds from the Intercoastal, so I just get up, take my coffee with my fishing pole, and I was fortunate enough to get a little snook this morning. Just jumped off right before I could land them. So, you never know what you're going to get, but one thing you have to do is you have to have a line in the water.
That's it.
In order to find out what you're going to catch that day.
And they call it fishing, not catching.
Correct. Or everybody be doing it.
That's it. Yeah. So a lot of the people that follow my podcast, and I do a ton of stuff on social media, and some of it's just stupid. I put the phone on my boat sometimes when we're out floating in the water and just push the button and let people watch us float in the water for an hour. I don't know. It's kind of pointless, but fun. But Troy, it's weird, right? Because I live in horse country. I live in the western Palm Beach County. And that's, we call it horse country out here because it is. We have the biggest horse scene pretty much in North America that I know of. I mean, there's some other places, and particularly in California, some spots, but this is where Bill Gates lives because his daughter rides. This is where Bruce Springsteen lives, and Jessica Springsteen lives here, and she's one of our top, actually, Olympic riders. So I look at his posts on Facebook or Instagram and stuff like that, and I get envious because he's out there on the water, and I'm out here in horse country. So, thank you for that, sir.
Sure. Try to get out and fish and
surf
your soul.
Surf,
exactly.
He truly lives the life. So
still waiting on that invite down to Key Largo to go out in the boat, but it'll get there soon enough.
Well, when you have a house in the Keys, everybody wants to come visit, and some people are higher than others on that list. But it'll happen eventually. And look, man, once I get the office open down there, we'll have to get a little branch office for Sunbelt down there. But so back to the business at hand, though, because this is, listen, guys, we're here to educate you about why living in South Florida doesn't suck, but also hopefully to educate you a little bit about real estate, the title process, why you should use somebody that you trust, why you shouldn't use the first person you talk to necessarily, unless it's, of course, me or Troy. Listen, this business, it's like any other one. You need to shop. You need to shop for your services because particularly, and I don't want to, belabor this point, but particularly in the real estate field down here, it's not really hard for somebody to get their real estate license. There's a lot of people that get them. They work for a broker that doesn't even live in the state, that gives them no support and really no, education. And I hate to say it, but I get tired of fielding calls from people that have used those people that are either calling me a jerk or asking me how I can help them because they're using somebody that really doesn't know what they're doing or have any ability to really do the job well. So particularly with your realtor, make sure you shop it. I'm not saying you should use the Andrew Berg Group, myself, or any of my team members, although it's a great idea, but make sure you shop it because it really is, for most people, the largest transaction that they're going to make in their life. Used to be one time that, would be like, oh, you buy a house once and that's it. But honestly, most people go through the majority of people go through the purchasing and sale process a couple of times in their life, but it's a huge transaction. And it blows my mind how many people use, Aunt Sally's hairdresser because Aunt Sally says, you should use my hairdresser. And then they just go, okay, great. Blows my mind. Same thing with a title professional.
They don't do any research.
There's companies out there that, honestly, it's like one gal and she does it out of her house. And I just don't think that that's the type of service that you really want with your very large transaction, whether you're buying or selling. And, Troy mentioned that the sales process is driven by the seller in Palm Beach County. However, the buyers do have the option of choosing title and paying for some of the other options as long as the seller agrees. And in some cases that can be beneficial too, mainly with investors and things like that. But I mean, there are some other options available out there for you. But the most important thing to me as a realtor for the title process is that when I pick up the phone and I say, hey, my customer has a question about this, or my customer picks up the phone and hey, I have a question about this, that somebody answers the phone. Troy's great at that. There are people that are not, much like any other business. Typically, title performs a very back of the house, not noticed function until the day of closing, and then it's boom.
Well, I wouldn't say till the day of closing.
I'm saying unnoticed by most people. You guys have a lot of stuff that you're doing, but I'm just saying that in general terms, it's kind of, you're doing your lien searches, you're issuing title insurance, those sort of things that are very functional. But from a end user's point of view, meaning a buyer or a seller, it's normally getting updates.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden closing day is most things go pretty smooth. If you have defects on title, then those are the things that you have to dive into and you have to get appropriated and fixed and remedied prior to closing. Yes. But for the most part, the most interaction that they're going to have is going to be on closing day with you guys. And that's the other part of the business that, to me, as a realtor, is very important, because I don't want to have to answer a lot of questions when I'm in a closing. I don't want to have to be super involved. And for me, that's not my job, quite frankly.
Sure.
Once we sit down at the closing table, my job's pretty much effectively over. Like I can't even really do anything. So I've been in situations, not with Sunbelt, but with other title companies. And the worst thing in the world, from my perspective, is I'm sitting with a title company, I'm with my customer, my buyer, we're going to buy a house, things are going on, a question comes up. And I look at the title professional, purported or not, and say, okay, so what is the answer to that question? And they go, I don't know. I've had this happen. And then I'm like, okay, because I don't know, because I'm not a title person. So using somebody that's reputable, somebody that's been around a long time, a very large company that is full of professional title people is very, very important. On the flip side of that coin, what do you wish? What do you hope for in your relationship with not only a home buyer or a home seller, but particularly a realtor, as far as what is the one thing that you feel like you really would like to get that you don't typically get from your partners in the deal?
Well, one thing I always try to precedent with, especially any agent or with anybody, your job as a real estate agent is to sell property. You don't explain title. You don't explain mortgage. You don't explain any other facet of your profession that you're not supposed to. That is when you say, hey, call Troy. He will answer all your questions. You have me on speed dial 24/7. Occasionally I will sleep here and there, but for the most part, that's my job to sell, explain, and provide title to the person. Because let's face it, people that aren't in our industry don't really know title. They don't really know, well, they probably bought in a house here or two, but for the most part, they don't know title. They don't know mortgage. They don't know other facets of the industry because they're not used to it. Right. So that's where I guide them and my clients to say, hey, call me so I can explain that to them. So it's very clear, cut, and dry. That's my profession. I wouldn't ask you to do mine, and you wouldn't ask me to do yours.
So basically, you'd say you'd rather not have realtors try to tell customers what title is all about, especially because most of them don't get it right anyways.
Exactly.
All right, well, that's welcome to my world. But the same thing with, look, and I tell people, like, with a mortgage, like, I know enough to make me dangerous, but here, let me tell you, this is the mortgage person that I prefer for this type of loan, and this is why, and here's a couple others, you should shop it. Go to your, also, look, I tell you right now, anytime that you're looking to do, and this has nothing to do with title, sorry, you can sit down and relax for a second, but with a mortgage, anytime that you're going to make a financial decision like that, go to the people that you trust with your finances first. Go to your local bank, credit union. Talk to them. Ask them questions. They all have mortgage advisors. I'm not going to say that they are always the best choice or always the best case scenario. Matter of fact, I'm going to say that sometimes they definitely aren't. But you should ask because that's the first shopping, right? Much like a realtor or title. Well, actually, title. Here's what I say on title. Title, I prefer you to use who I want you to use because the reason I want you to use it is because I've dealt with whoever it is for years, and I know that they're going to do a great job. And Sunbelt's not the only title company that I use, but it depends on the situation. And I know generally after a decade and a half of doing this, who's going to handle it better. But that being said, remember these are all services that you can shop for. Just because I'm your realtor doesn't mean you have to use my preferred title or my preferred lender. Obviously, I prefer that to happen because the reason I'm advising you that is from past experience, but hey, you never know. Anyways, so on that note, let's get back into why South Florida doesn't suck, why living here doesn't suck. When we're here in Palm Beach County, we are about, I say 3 hours from everything in South Florida that anybody would want to get to.
Pretty much. I would say that's a fair judgment.
Yeah. So if you want to hit the West Coast, not California, but the West Coast of Florida, Naples,
Venice Beach, Coral
yeah,
Grove.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Marco
2.5
Island,
and Marco Island. Marco Island's gorgeous, honestly.
Captiva, yeah. There's
I
a bunch of
love Marco.
places over there.
Fishing's pretty good over there in West Coast,
Sure.
especially for snooks like you like. And you fish for tarpon too, or no?
Yeah.
So it's some of the best tarpon fishing I've ever
Tarpon,
found is
redfish,
Boca
sea
Chica,
trout.
man.
Yeah,
Boca
really
Chica,
good.
and they just run through. You're in the little cuts there and stuff, and you can almost walk across them. They're so thick sometimes. We get them down the Keys too, but in the Keys they don't tend to be quite as big inshore. Well, as you go, you got to get south. So
the big ones.
I'm sorry, I should clarify and say Key Largo, Almirada. You go a little further south because they're usually heading in and out through the back bays. Like I live on the bay side. I don't live on the ocean side, and the snook just kind of cruise through a lot because they're headed from one place to another when they're there. But they do come in a little bit, but for any of those that care about snook fishing or any other kind of fishing, it's another reason it doesn't suck to live in South Florida because you can catch it. Like right here, we go offshore here. I mean, the sky's the limit as to what you can catch. I mean, we're not catching cod, but there's 20 or so varieties of fish that we can catch here, and they're pretty darn tasty.
Sure.
I actually have a lot of good inshore fisheries too. If you like the bass fish, trout, not so much. Like we don't have a lot of running streams for trout. We got a lot of bass,
sea trout.
Sea trout, but those are not inshore. Crappie or crappie, depending on where you're from. Huge, crazy. You got the Lake Okeechobee, man. Those guys go out there and they just fill stringers up with them. But
well, what's taken over right here is all the invasive species because we got peacock bass,
peacock
we got
bass.
snakeheads, we got clown knifefish, we got all kinds of pacus that are coming into town.
Pacus are going to be
a lot of good freshwater fish that's actually getting really
getting decimated by some of these things.
Yes,
snakeheads are ridiculous. Totally apropos of nothing whatsoever. I lived in Maryland years ago. I want to say 20 plus years ago, and there was a lady in Silver Spring, I think, or something, and she was, she had the snakehead because she was. I don't remember the culture that eats the snakeheads all the time, but anyway, she was had them in like a pool with a bubbling thing out back of her house, and then when she moved, she just dumped them all in this one pond, and
that's what happened down here.
Well, it was crazy how quick they expanded from that one pond to all over the place. And they actually had a little map, and it was like, and within 3 months, they were in every pond in 15 square miles. So another thing that you probably didn't care about, but now you know a little bit about the propagation of snakeheads.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I told you my mind wanders a little bit, and this was going to be one of those sort of free-flowing things because sometimes I just don't know what I'm going to talk about. But I do know the last really business question that I have for you is you kind of hit on this a little bit earlier. So as far as if you're buying a property in, say, Palm Beach County and you're buying it in Boca Raton, it's nice to have a place to close in Boca Raton and not have to come to Wellington or go to Palm Beach Gardens to do it.
Correct.
Now, the rule or the law, it's a law, right, that it has to be in the county
that the property is located in.
Right. So for our audience out there that may not know Palm Beach County, how big is Palm Beach County, Troy?
Well, Palm Beach County stretches from South Boca Raton all the way up to Jupiter. So, and I believe even part of Tequesta might even be located in Palm Beach County.
Yeah, part of Tequesta, and all the way out to the lake. So what he meant to say is it's big, man. So it's the biggest county east of the Mississippi by a big stretch. And I believe it's 4 Palm Beach counties make a Rhode Island, which Rhode Island's a small state.
But still.
Palm Beach County is a huge county. To drive from East Boca to Palm Beach Gardens, depending on traffic, you could be
45 minutes to an hour.
An hour to an hour and a half. You're pre-COVID, maybe. You don't go that way a lot, do you?
Well, on
pre-COVID, maybe. Right now, let me tell you something. It takes me from here. I have a commercial listing that I just sold 600 yards south of Glades Road on Federal Highway. That's as east as you can get in pretty much central Boca. For me to get from the Wellington office to that property took me an hour and 10 minutes. Just from Wellington, an hour and 10 minutes the other day. So it's a really big county. The segue that I was trying to segue into Sunbelt is that how many offices do you have in Palm Beach County?
I have 5 offices located in Palm Beach County, spread out, one in Boca, Delray, Boynton, Wellington, Palm Beach, and Palm Beach Gardens. So, the good thing about this is, one, first and foremost, is you can close in any office.
Right.
You can process it out of any office as well and do a courtesy closing in whatever office is closest to the property. Now, what's going on with technology nowadays is that a lot of people aren't even coming into closings. If the seller is a little bit tech savvy, everybody knows how to get on a Zoom or a Teams meeting. They can log into our system at no extra charge. We don't charge for remote online notarizations, which are now called bronze.
Yeah, that's a brand new thing, people. You got to love that. Those of you that couldn't do that and can do that now, you don't have any idea how much you love that. But
that's one thing that we offer. About 70% of our escrow officers are all licensed drawn closers that can close you virtually right on your computer. You don't have to leave the comfort of your home.
That's huge.
To close on your house.
Yeah, and quite frankly, these days, and in certain markets, particularly like the Wellington market, even 10, 15 years ago, we did a certain amount of virtual sales, meaning that we sold property to people that weren't actually here when they bought it because they came in for equestrian season or whatever.
Sight unseen.
It wasn't sight unseen. We still did the antiquated way to do that. Now you can just hop on the FaceTime or Zoom or whatever on the phone. But there were antiquated ways to do it, and we would actually even do recordings, and then we would send the recordings to them. It was a mess, but quite frankly, they just weren't able to get here until season because the horsemen are literally so busy doing horse stuff, jumping and whatever, that they don't really have time to do it. Their managers will get in there a day or two before and they'll start opening stuff up. But long story short is that during COVID, all of a sudden we started doing a ton of these, Zoom or
everything was virtual.
Everything was virtual, and then finally the lenders caught up. They were the last people, by the way, the lenders, to catch up. But glad they did. What are you getting ready to do? 5 minutes? We got 5 minutes left. Better pack some good content in the last 5 minutes here, Troy. You got anything special to add here?
One thing that going back to the South Florida doesn't suck is we have some of the probably world-class dining to go around, whether it's Boca, whether it's downtown Delray, Point Beach, West Palm Beach, Palm Beach Gardens. There's 4 to 5 star dining everywhere, and it's pick your poison. Whether you like any style of food, that you can go and sit down and probably have one of the top 5 best meals of your life somewhere down here. And that's something that, as a foodie, I like to cook. But you know what? I can appreciate going out to a really nice
I like to eat
dinner as well.
Yeah.
And that's presentation and atmosphere. And half the time you can be sitting on the water and enjoying a cocktail, or taking your boat to even go have a cocktail and a great meal on the water. So it's something that really speaks volume in South Florida, that we're surrounded by water, we're surrounded by good food, we're surrounded by any activity and every activity that you want to do, from sports, equestrian, golf, to fishing, surfing.
I gotta forget about golf. I totally forgot about golf.
We got some of the best golf in South Florida as well.
Absolutely. Some of our public courses, people come down here, that blows their mind, because some of our public courses make their country club course up north look like a dog track, quite frankly. I'm not belittling your country club, but you got here. We got one of the. I take people to the dump, the Parkland, the Park Ridge, the dump on Boynton and 441. It's literally built on an old trash dump, and now it's an Audubon nationally recognized location. It's a gorgeous course, one of the few courses in South Florida that has a lot of elevation. And then people are blown away, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is way better!" And I'm like, "Yeah, and it's built on a dump. Go figure." But also there's some I forgot when I was talking about location. We got off on snook fishing or whatever. One of the other things that's basically about 3 hours away is Orlando. So if you got kids, you want to go up to the parks, man, it's great. And listen, we get discounts for everything. Florida residents. Let me tell you something. I don't care if you're going on a cruise, you're going to Disney, you're going to stay at some hotel on the Keys. I just booked one for my mom for her birthday. The Florida resident rate, and they used to have Duval County residence rates, but they got rid of those during COVID, bastards. But the Florida at the Opal in Key West, the Florida resident rate is like $40 a day cheaper. Plus you get credit at the resort. It's crazy. And that's just for living here. Just for living. Didn't even do nothing. Get on a cruise ship. Let me tell you something. Way cheaper if you're a Florida resident. So anyways, that's mainly for you guys that don't already live here in South Florida. But the last point I'm going to make about living in South Florida doesn't suck is what he talked about, all the fine dining and all that sort of stuff. Look, there's a reason that Jaromir Jagr came down here to play hockey, because he was retired in place. Because everybody wants to make it to South Florida eventually. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people, and assumedly the people watching this, because other than that, why would you watch something called Living in South Florida Doesn't Suck? But you get all the chefs from all the major cities, New York, Boston, and they all go, you know what, we need to open a place down there, because then we can go live down there. We can go find, you know what I mean? Guy Fieri's down here, Christ, if he's not in California, he's here. He's down there all the time. There's a reason for it, because
we live in paradise.
Doesn't suck. Anyways, so all right. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you got a busy day today ahead. I do want to thank you for coming on our little podcast here. Hopefully, we'll see you again. You're gonna have to go out and catch some fish and have some better stories if you're gonna come back on. But hey, it's all good. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. Glad you tuned in. And in just a minute, you'll be able to see all the blurbs and all that good stuff as to where you can find me, where you can get in touch with Troy, where you can do all the things you got to do, like, click, blah, 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 blah. See you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Living in South Florida Does Not Suck. Please do subscribe with the notification bell on. If you liked today's guest, you can also get more information about them right here. Like magic, it will appear. Anyways, we love having you here. We love having your friends here. Shout it out from the rooftops. Like us on Facebook. Share it with your friends. We'll see you soon here in beautiful, sunny South Florida.